Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Flickinger on the Westmoreland Sports Network, and today we have a special interview with head coach Anthony Williams of the Pitt-Greensburg baseball team. The Bobcats recently came back from Puerto Rico, where they played in the Clemente Cup. It was the first annual Clemente Cup. And, Coach, first of all, before we talk on the field, we have to talk about the experience that I'm sure you had and the players had. I'm sure you were on Cloud 9 when you were there, and what a great experience. First annual Clemente Cup, and you guys got to experience it firsthand.
Yeah, it was exactly what we wanted it to be. It was a unique, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our team. For all of us, I think on the trip, it was our first trip to Puerto Rico. We had a couple parents that had been there before, but it was an opportunity to do something unique, obviously playing some good competition down there, and a chance to experience the culture of the island of Puerto Rico.
Talk about what it was like there. I mean, what you guys got to do before we talk about baseball. Between games, what did you guys get to experience?
Yeah, so in Puerto Rico, they were very ceremonial with a lot of things. You know, we got there the first day prior to our first games on the field. We got to explore the stadium, get settled in the locker rooms and things like that. But prior to the game, they had a ceremony for the three teams that were there to start the Clemente Cup, which was us, Penn State Abington, which was the first ever Clemente Cup game, and then SUNY Canton, who kind of helped put the tournament together. So they honored those three teams in the city of Aguadilla. The mayor was there. They had a lot of people from the town that came out to kind of support.
Wow.
And like I said, it was very ceremonial. A number of anthems, both in Spanish and English. And just a great opportunity for our guys to kind of see the culture down there, meet the Clemente family. They were there to had some opening remarks and things like that.
That's really cool that the Clemente family was so involved. I mean, can you talk about their involvement in it? Because I know before we talked on the air, you had mentioned that you had some conference calls and you got to sit with some members of the Clemente family. Yeah,
so Luis, the entire family, Luis Clemente is Roberto's son, and the entire family was down there. And I think, here in America, they do a lot of celebrating Roberto Clemente in Major League Baseball. And obviously the Pittsburgh Pirates, being here in Pittsburgh, we see a lot of Clemente jerseys still around the ballpark and things like that. But to honor him down there in his native Puerto Rico, I think was special for not only the family, but for the people there. So to be part of that and being a team from Pittsburgh and really the only Pittsburgh team down there, was a little extra special for us. And, when we got to go do some things later in the week, we had a lot of our guys wearing Clemente jerseys and things like that.
Cool.
And it was very unique and enjoyable experience.
Do you think it made it even more enjoyable for them to see a Pittsburgh team down there?
I think so, just to kind of put some some thoughts with what they had already known about the man himself, and it was before either of us were around, but just to kind of tie in a little bit of that generation into now, and to really keep his legacy going, and just to have a small part of that was pretty special from our standpoint. And I'm sure it had to be special for the Clemente family as well to have a Pittsburgh team participate. Yeah, it was really unique. It was really cool, and one of the things that I kept thinking to myself down there was that, this is bigger than Pitt-Greensburg baseball. This is bigger than college baseball. This was a really cool moment for the game of baseball, and we were just happy to be a part of that. And that's something the kids certainly will never forget. Where did you guys get to play, Coach? I know you played in a couple of different fields in a couple of different areas. There were 6 ballparks that we utilized down there. We played our games in 3 of those. The main one we used was in the town of Aguadilla. The mayor in that town, Mayor Mendez, was awesome, and was a great guy to work with down there. And I think a couple of those ballparks were used by Major League Baseball Winter League teams. So there were some professional teams in Puerto Rico that lent us their stadiums as well. So a couple of the ballparks were really, really nice, and we were playing in front of some people that are used to seeing maybe 10,000, 15,000 a night in those stadiums. So ballparks were nice. Roberto played before you or I's generation, but I want to ask you this question. Obviously we know all about Roberto Clemente, seeing highlights, talking to older folks, parents, what have you, our fathers, our grandfathers. But perhaps this generation may not know as much about Roberto because they're once or twice removed. For those guys that didn't maybe know a whole lot about him going to Puerto Rico, were they able to really educate themselves pretty quickly on
on really who he was on and off the field? Because I think a lot of guys know who he was on the field, but maybe they got a better opportunity to learn what he was off the field going over there.
Yeah, I think some of the service stuff that he was really known for, and obviously that the award for Major League Baseball is named after him, I think that our guys were able to kind of pick up a little bit about what his legacy was. Obviously, they knew he was a great ball player, and they knew he was, he played here in Pittsburgh and was revered for many years. But some of the service stuff that he did and the impact that he had in the community, I think our guys really got educated on. We tried to share some things from here to bring down there. We brought some jerseys for one of the mayors in the towns. We brought some bats, some things we had left over here, just to kind of give back. We were fortunate. We had two bat boys. They were both pretty special guys. They were with us the first couple days, first 3 games, and we gave them an honorary Pitt-Greensburg jersey, and they wore it in the dugout.
Oh, that's cool.
It was about 3 sizes too big for them, but something they'll have for a long time.
Yeah, they'll grow into it.
That's what I told them. They'll grow into it. That's right.
How did this trip all come together? I'm sure there had to have been a crazy amount of planning and fundraising. I know you guys usually go to Bradenton, or at least in Florida. How did this trip come together?
Yeah, I think anytime you're doing something for the first time, there's a lot of kinks to work out, and this is about 18 months in the making. It first was brought up to me actually during our spring trip last year in Florida. And in my first recruiting class, as you mentioned, is my 5th year. My first recruiting class for seniors now. And I talked to our senior class, after our Florida trip last year, and we talked about wanting to do something a little bit different, maybe give the guys a little bit more of a unique experience somehow. And once this opportunity came up, and I think, as I mentioned before, being in Pittsburgh and having some sort of ties to the Clemente name from being up here, there was an opportunity that we thought would be really cool for our guys. And so it started then. And then a lot of conference calls, a lot of planning, like you said. And I was out in Nashville for the coaches convention this past year, met with the Clementes and Vic Rivera, who's the assistant coach at SUNY Canton. He's actually from Puerto Rico, knew the Clemente family well. So he had a big part in putting this all together, along with Luis. And Luis really tried to use his resources. Rawlings Baseball donated all the baseballs for the entire tournament with the Clemente Cup logo on it, which was really cool. So there was a lot of behind-the-scenes planning that went into it, and it was at least 18 months in the making, but it was all worth it. That was pretty special.
Now, did you have an opportunity? I know you've worked previously with the Pirates a little bit. Have you have an opportunity before this planning to meet the Clementes at all?
I had, but just in passing, nothing very formal, really into our conference calls, planning this trip here, and then obviously the face-to-face in Nashville, and then obviously getting down there and getting to meet Vera Clemente, Roberto's widow, and it's her 75th birthday while we were there. So one of the nights they had a big banquet to honor all the teams, and they kind of recognized her birthday, tied that into everything, which was really nice.
Can you give us I'm sure there's a lot watching right now that have never gotten an opportunity, obviously, to meet the Clemente family. Can you kind of give us an idea of what type of people they're like? I mean, I can't even imagine. As gracious as Roberto was, I'm sure they're just as gracious.
Yeah, I mean, those people down there, the Clemente family I'm speaking of, they were tremendous people. They wanted us to have a first-class experience. Obviously, they wanted us to kind of carry on the torch, with Roberto's legacy. And if that was college baseball, and Division III baseball down there for that week and making that impact in that community, then that was a great place for us to start. And we were very, very happy and very proud to do that. But the family itself was just really willing to do whatever it was to help and really try to make this a first-class event and something that they would like to see grow, not just for Roberto's name, but for the island of Puerto Rico, the people there, to be able to experience college baseball in their hometowns, and for a lot of the kids that are growing up there, an opportunity to, hey, perhaps I got a chance to go on and land somewhere in one of these colleges that's coming down in one of these tournaments. So there's a recruiting side of things for some of these kids as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the coolest things, I've talked to some people that have been to Puerto Rico, some Pirate fans that have been over there, and even though it's been years and years since his passing and since he played, if you mention his name over there, he's still a god over there. I mean, anytime you mention his name from talking to people, that everybody wants to talk about him.
Well, we saw a lot of Pirates gear from the locals down there. So it's obviously, it means a lot. And I think this year, it's Memorial Day weekend, the Pirates and Marlins are playing a 2-game set in San Juan, right? Which is going to get a lot of attention. And obviously, you'll hear Roberto's name quite a bit over those couple games. But yeah, it's definitely something where there's people down there remember his legacy. It means a lot to them even to this day. And I think that they're very happy that we could come down there and just share in a little part of that with them.
Now, this was the first annual Clemente Cup. So this was the first year forward. You guys played in the first game, which was, again, you mentioned that's really cool. Is it something that the Clemente family would like to see every year? And is it something, I know it's tough, I'm sure, again, with planning and fundraising, but it is something that Pitt-Greensburg would like to be a part of in the future?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we had the idea in mind of making this more than just a one-year event. Now, obviously, we were kind of the pioneers of this as they were calling us down there. And there's going to be some things we need to work out moving forward with it, but it really provides certainly a great backdrop, being on the coast like we were, some good ball fields, to play in, and we had some really good competition. I think that with just having 1 week of what's kind of possible, seeing that, they definitely want to grow it, and I think there's some Division II programs, some NAIA schools that have already kind of committed to coming down next year. Which is great for the tournament and great for the people in Puerto Rico to see this thing grow. We certainly would entertain the idea of trying to go back there again.
And I think that's what the greatest part of it is. You mentioned earlier, it's not just going over there playing some baseball and, there's a member of the Clemente family in the stands and that's it. I mean, the way that they did it up big, as you mentioned, the banquet, the baseballs donated by Rawlings with the logo on there, the Clementes being involved so heavily. I mean, that made the experience, I'm sure, something that, again, the players will never forget, and hopefully they can, at least the juniors and sophomores and freshmen can go back.
No question. I mean, it's going to be a trip that we'll never forget, in a good way. But it was exciting to see, how excited the people there were. And as you mentioned, at the banquet, and that was, I think, on Sunday night. I'm sorry, maybe it was Saturday night. And we just thought it was going to be for the teams that were there, and it was going to be a small thing, get-together, cookout. We're pulling the vans up. And there's probably a couple thousand people out there, and they have a stage. There's live music, and you have the stage set up with all the teams that are there and their logos flashing up on the screen, and people walking through the streets. Our guys got to go out and experience that. There were salsa dancing. They had some girls there that were teaching free lessons to some of our guys.
I was going to say, is there videos somewhere of that?
And somewhere, I'm sure that there's plenty of videos and pictures
on
of that.
cell phones. Yeah,
our guys got to experience a little bit of culture there and learn a little salsa dancing. Some good, some bad.
Yeah.
But no, it was fun nonetheless, and a great environment, and a cool experience for our guys out there.
Well, I was going to say, I can't wait to talk to some of the guys on our broadcast this year about the experience over there. I don't know about the salsa dancing. Maybe I'll get their opinion on that too, see how they did.
Hey, it was all part of the trip, It was the cultural cultural part that we wanted our guys to try to enjoy a little bit.
Well, let's jump on the field, Coach. Certainly want to talk about the 2016 Bobcats. Now, you guys played 6 games there against 4 different teams. You finished the trip 4-2. As of this show, we're recording it. You guys are 5-4 overall on this Tuesday. Did you like what you saw from your team in Puerto Rico? Because I know you can get caught up. You want to play good baseball. You want to enjoy yourselves for sure too. But did you like what you saw on the diamond?
Yeah, we're getting better, and that's the big thing. We're off to a 5-4 start. We feel like we could easily be a little bit better than that, but we're not. We got a long way to go, and we're going to be a very different team in May than we are in March. We know that, but it's nice to see us getting better after 9 games and continuing to do some things better than we did down in North Carolina to open the season. So.
You got a big victory early on, though, even before Puerto Rico. You beat number 10 Frostburg in your 3rd game of the season, 4-3. Big game for Dylan Pounds. He had 3 hits. He also earned the win on the mound. Game that you can kind of reflect back on later in the year and say we have the confidence of beating anybody?
I think so. I think for a number of reasons. Obviously, to beat a good opponent, a team that was in Appleton last year in the College World Series. It's always nice to come back and get a win against a team like that. And for our guys, where we took a lead into the 9th inning, we played really good baseball that day. We pitched it well to start with, and that was a big difference from the day before against Brockport. But we played some small ball. We did some things. We had some timely hitting. But in the 9th inning, things got a little hairy for us, and we saw a 4-1 lead almost evaporate, but it didn't. We hung in there together, and to get a good team win like that when things could have easily fallen apart for us, I think that is one that at the end of the year we'll look back and say, hey, that was kind of a starting point for the foundation of this team as you try to build your identity throughout the season. That's a win that will definitely have circled on our calendar for us.
And you coached at Frostburg before coming to Pitt-Greensburg, right?
Yeah, and that was actually the first time I've beaten those guys, so we felt
so
like
it felt a little extra better then.
Yeah, and as a group, we have some seniors here that have been playing them for the last couple years as well, and we owed them one, so we're happy to get one.
Well, I'm sure it's a team you like having on your schedule, though, kind of a measuring stick for you early on if you do play them early in the season, usually, because they're a good program, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of the idea behind the schedule we have together, is to try to prepare our guys for postseason play, not only in our AMCC tournament, but if we get to an NCAA regional, to go in and not just be happy to be there, but go in and compete and fight for a spot in Appleton. So that's what the idea behind playing some of these tough teams was about.
Well, you guys are coming off of another really good season, 2 heartbreaking losses in the AMCC tournament, some late leads slipped away from you, should have had La Roche and then Penn State Barron. But I know you guys are looking forward. Still made it to the AMCC semis last year, Coach, finishing 24-19-1. You have some key pieces coming back this year. I'm sure you guys feel that why not us to win a AMCC championship this year?
Well, we'll see. We got a lot of work to do, and it's a long journey to May, that's for sure. But we have good leadership, and that's a good place to start. I have 4 seniors, and Anthony Bizzuto and Matt Germanowski, Greg Lynn and Matt Moyer, along with those guys have been here for 4 years, and I have 2 other seniors, Adam Dotson and Brandon Rowland. All 6 of those guys are leaders on this team and have done a great job to kind of each individual role kind of help this team. So we have the leadership to get us there. We're pitching the ball a little bit better than we were early in the season, so I like our chances this year. We feel we're ready. As you mentioned, to the losses last year kind of fueled the fire, so to speak, for us in the off season. We spent a lot of time, at least in the fall, talking about what this all meant to us as individuals. And anytime you go through something like we did last year, especially against Penn State Barron in that semifinal game, where you blow a substantial lead in the 9th inning, it hurts. But it's also a character builder for us. And we've turned the page, so to speak, but we haven't forgotten what's made us as strong as we are and what's gotten us to this point.
Well, I want to ask you about one of those seniors, Coach. Anthony Bizzuto, you mentioned him, has a .438 batting average after the first 9 games, been getting on base a ton, drawing a lot of walks, driving in runs. Seems like he's really taking it upon himself to kind of be not only a senior leader, but really lead the offense this year. Well,
and he's a gamer. He's it wasn't particularly swinging it well in preseason, in the cages and stuff like that. But once the lights went on, he kind of found his stroke a little bit. So he's been swinging it well, and he's a leader. Obviously most catchers are, but he's a guy that's been doing it for 4 years with us, back behind the dish, and him and Matt Germanowski at third base. Has probably started well over 100 straight games for us. And Greg Lynn and Matt Moyer have been mainstays in our starting lineup the last couple of years. So we're really going to look to those guys to kind of lead the way. You mentioned you weren't throwing it real well early, but seems like you have bounced back after a kind of a rough start. Got to give a shout out to my man Brandon Rowland, by the way. I talk to him pretty much every day at LA Fitness, so I got to give a shout out to Brandon. But what are you expecting from your rotation, your bullpen this year? Well, you mentioned Brandon, and Brandon was a guy that had some success for us last year. In a reliever and a starter role, kind of settled into a conference starting role for us. Pitched some big games in the playoffs for us last year, so he brings that experience factor. And you mentioned Dylan Pounds earlier, who got the win against Frostburg. Dylan's our starting shortstop, but he's going to be one of the mainstays on the mound for us going into conference play. And then from there, we got some younger guys kind of fighting it out with some returners, and with some guys really competing, and it's nice to see. So over the course of the next couple games, we'll kind of sort some things out before we head into conference play when we need to have a 4-man rotation. But those 2 guys, for sure are kind of the leaders on the staff at this point right now. Well, when you look at the AMCC right now, I mean, obviously La Roche is right there at the top. You guys have been at the top the last couple of years, at least in the top 3 or so. What do you kind of expect this year when looking at the conference? Well, I think it's going to be competitive like it has been the last couple of years, and it's going to be about who's playing the best baseball and who makes the fewest mistakes, come down the home stretch and in the playoffs. It's really what it's going to be about. I think the last couple of years we just hadn't pitched it well enough in the playoffs when it mattered most. And I think that this year, that's one of the things we're hoping that we do a little bit better. Pitching and defense is certainly a cliche. We've swung the bats really well the last couple of years, but pitching and defense has kind of let us down. So we're hoping those 2 things kind of catch up to where our offense has been. This is your 5th year. Time flies, right? That's what all the coaches say. Is it hard to believe? You know what it is? Time certainly has flown.
Yeah.
We've been building this thing now for 4+ years, and this being the 5th. And we've been knocking on the door, and we feel like we've arrived as a program. We've done some really good things. If you look across the board in terms of wins and things like that, and getting to the playoffs and doing some things that this program has never done before. But, ultimately we're still searching for that first conference championship, one that Pitt-Greensburg has never had here before. And we have the right guys to do it, and that's for sure. So, but like I said, there's a long way to go between now and May, so we'll just have to see where things go.
Well, the men's basketball team made an incredible run, Anthony, to get to the AMCC championship and into the NCAA tournament. Why not the baseball team this year?
Hey, that's right. Those guys, they kind of showed us when you got to deal with some adversity, what can be accomplished when you stick together. So, kind of, put the blueprint out there for us. Hopefully, we can follow suit.
Coach, thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate you taking some time, and also on behalf of the Westmoreland Sports Network, really appreciate the partnership with Pitt-Greensburg this year. We're going to have 5 Pitt-Greensburg baseball and softball doubleheaders this year, as we had basketball and soccer as well in the fall, and it's been really fun. I want to thank you and Sean and all the great people, Chuck as well, and Aaron, and everybody here at UPG for having this partnership with Pitt-Greensburg.
Thanks for having us, Dan. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right, that's Anthony Williams talking about the Clemente Cup. By the way, the Pitt-Greensburg baseball team will open conference play on March 30th, and that will be against Penn State Altoona. And our first broadcast of UPG baseball will actually be on March 26th as a UPG takes on Case Western. And, Coach, I know you do like to have a lot of non-conferences on your schedule for sure, and you have some, again, Frostburg and some other good ones, right?
We do, yeah. Well, like I said, we try to play a tough schedule, and Case is a team that's been to a regional final. Is a good program. Worcester is a top 10 team in the country last year, and I think this year they're in the top 25 right now. We have them coming into town, and we're playing a couple teams like Mount Union, who's plays in a very competitive OAC. So we're trying to put together a tough schedule in addition to our conference slate that's gonna, not only keep our strength of schedule up, but also prepare us for postseason play.
First live broadcast will be March 26th against Case Western at UPG, and as always in the spring, it is weather permitting. That's Coach Anthony Williams in his 5th year at Pitt-Greensburg. I'm Dan Flickinger. You're watching the Westmoreland Sports Network.